Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Chapter 1. Before Breakfast. "Where's Papa going with that axe?" said Fern to her mother as they were sitting at the table for breakfast. "Out of the hoghouse," replied Mrs. Terrible. "Some pigs are born last night." "I don't see why he needs an axe," continued Fern, who was only 8. "Well," said her mother, "one of the pigs is a runt. It is very small and weak, and it is never meant to do anything. So your father has decided to do away with it." "Do away with it?" shrieked Fern. "You mean kill it, just because it's smaller than the others?" Mrs. Terrible put a pitcher of the cream on the table. "Don't yell, Fern," she said. "Your father is right. The pig would probably die anyway." Fern pushed out of the chair out of the way and ran outdoors. The grass was red and the earth smelled of springtime. Fern snickered and sobbing by the time she caught up with her father. "Please don't kill it," she sobbed. "It's unfair." Mr. Terrible stopped working. "Fern," he said gently, "you will have to learn to control yourself." "Control myself?" yawned Fern. "This is a matter of life and death, and you talking about controlling myself?" Tears ran out of her cheeks, and she took hold of an axe and tried to pull out in his father's hand. "Fern," said Mr. Terrible, "I know more about raising a little litter of pig than you do. A weaking makes trouble. Now run along." "But it's unfair," cried Fern. "The pig couldn't help being born small, could it? If I had born very small and fierce, would you have to kill me?" Mr. Terrible smiled. "Certainly not," he said, looking down at his daughter with love. "But it is different. A little girl is one thing, a little rusty pig is another." "I don't see no difference," replied Fern, still hanging on to the axe. "This is the most terrible case of injustice I ever heard of." A queer look out came Jones Terrible's face. He seemed almost ready to cry himself. "All right," he said. "You go back to the house and I'll blame your runt when I come in. I'll let you stare down a bottle like a baby. Then you will have the trouble a pig can be." When Mr. Terrible returned home half an hour later, he carried a carton under his arms. Fern was upstairs crying her sneakers. The kitchen table was set on breakfast. The room smelled of coffee, bacon, damp plaster, and wood smoke for the trough. "Put it on her chair," said Mrs. Terrible. Mr. Terrible set the carton down in Fern's place. Then he worked down to the sink and washed his hand with a dried down on a roll of towel. Fern came slowly downstairs. Her eyes were red from crying. She was approached her chair when the carton was wobbled. There was a scratching noise. Fern looked up at father. Then she lifted a little of cartoon. There inside, looking up at her, was a newborn pig. It was a white one. This morning light shone through his ears, turning them pink. "He's yours," said Mr. Terrible, "saved from untimely death, and may the good Lord forgive me for a foolness." Fern didn't take his eyes for a tiny pig. "Oh," she whispered. "Oh, look at him. He's absolutely perfect." She closed the carton down carefully. First, she kissed her father. Then she kissed her mother. Then she opened the lid again, lifted the pig out. She held it against her cheeks. At this moment, her brother Avery came into the room. Avery was 10. He was heavily armed and the rifle of one hand, a wooden dagger, and another. "What's that?" he demanded. "What's Fern got?" "She got a gas from breakfast," said Mrs. Terrible. "Wash your hands and face, Avery." "Let's see it," said Avery, setting his gun down. "You call the miserable thing the pig? That's a fine specimen of a pig. It's no bigger than a white rat." "Wash up and eat your breakfast, Avery," said his mother. "The school bus will come in half an hour." Can I have a pig too, Pop?" asked Avery. No, I only distribute pigs to early risers, said Mr. Arable. Fern was up at daylight, trying to write the word of injustice. As a result, she's not has a pig. A small one, to be sure, but nevertheless a pig. It just shows that it can help when a person gets out of the bed promptly. Let's eat. For Fern couldn't eat until her pig had to drink milk. Mrs. Arable found a baby nursing bottle and rubber to nipples. She poured the warm milk into the bottle, flattened a nipple on top of, and handed it to Fern. Give it his breakfast, she said. A minute later, Fern was settled on the floor and corner of the kitchen with his infant between her knees, teaching a suck from the bottle. The pig, although tiny, has a good appetite to cut on quickly. The school bus honked from the road. Run! Commented Mrs. Arable, taking the pig from the Fern and slipping donut into her hand. Avery grabbed his guns and another donut. The children ran out the road and climbed into the bus. Fern took no notice on the other bus. She just sat and stared out of the window, thinking how beautiful world it was, how lucky she was to have entire charter pig. By the time the bus reached school, Fern had the name of her pet, selecting down a most beautiful name she could think of. Its name is Wilbur, she whispered to herself. She was still thinking about the pig when the teacher said, Fern, what is the capital of Pennsylvania? Wilbur, replied Fern grimly. The pupils screamed. Fern blushed.